time. If people wanted to organize workshops or field trips, it had to either be before the pro bono conference or after the pro bono conference, because we didn't want it to conflict with the pro bono conference. We wanted to connect, not conflict. So this developed over a period of time, and we would have all these amazing pre and post workshops, meetings, roundtables, field trips, and we still would have the Asia Pro Bono Conference, which was usually about 2 to 3 days. In 2019, we held the Asia Pro Bono Conference, and in 2019, everybody, who knows where we held the conference in 2019? If you know where the conference was held in 2019, let's put it into the chat. Where was the conference held in 2019? Let's put it into the chat. Nepal, right. And in Nepal, that's where we institutionalized the idea of, instead of calling these sessions the pre or post Asia Pro Bono Conference sessions, we institutionalized this into calling it the Access to Justice Exchange. So all of a sudden, we have the Asia Pro Bono Conference and the Access to Justice Exchange. And that's how we've been doing it. Since that time, of course, we've had some things, I don't know if you knew about it, but we had something called COVID. As you do, so we've had to go virtual. And we've done this in a very, very positive way. But we've still stuck to this idea of having the pro bono conference and then the Access to Justice Exchange. So we just finished 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this last week. We finished an amazing 11th Asia Pro Bono Conference. And we could not be more proud and more happy of all the presenters, the secretariat, the depth and the substance of what, of what was produced, and, people connecting up virtually. A number of people came to Laos. They decided they wanted to be tourists, and they met each other up in Laos as tourists, which was great. And that was successful. And what we decided this year was, usually the A2J exchange would start immediately after the pro bono conference. But this time we decided to give it a few days. So people, if they were traveling, they were able to go back. So the pro bono conference ended on Sunday, and it is now Thursday. In between, I can tell you, in Laos, we helped to organize a national clinical legal education exchange for 2 days. And UNDP organized a regional lawyer gathering. So we still had events that were going on, similar to what we used to have, the post-conference events. But now we are here. So now, today we're here, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're here for the 3 days to have these incredibly vibrant sessions. So that's the history. We look forward to be doing this going forward in different ways. I think we've all come to the realization that even when the conference and the exchange is physical, we're still going to have a virtual component. We must, because we're able to increase impact at scale by having people who can't necessarily attend physically be able to connect up. So with that, I want everybody to give a thumbs up. Everybody, let's give a thumbs up. And we're going to open, everybody do this, we're going to open this Access to Justice Exchange. And with doing that, the first session that we have planned really builds on work that has been done in the last few years, and that is related to refugee rights protection. And last year, now this is interesting because, as I said, the A2J exchange does not have to have a connection to pro bono. It may, but it does not have to. And last year, we very much demonstrated that. Last year, a number of us put together a refugee rights protection summer school. And it was held in August of 2021. And we had participants from around the globe. And it was an amazing event. It went 5 days, and we focused on many innovative ways to address refugee rights protections in a number of different countries and a number of different manners. Following that, we picked 5 people from that summer school and we gave them small stipend scholarships. They came forward and they pitched during the summer school, they pitched some projects to us, some projects that were real, that they felt that they can do and actually do quickly within the year, for not a lot of money. And then would be able to come back and present back to us. Now, the projects have not been easy, and as you can imagine, they've been challenging for some, not just because of COVID, but for other reasons. But generally, each person here in some way has either implemented the project or are in the planning stages of doing that. So what we're going to have is we're going to have 5. Let's put up 5 fingers, everyone. 5 fingers. Okay, 5. We're going to have 5 presenters, 5 recipients, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they've done. But if we can just quickly put up my quick PowerPoint on the discussion topics, because this is the outline of what each of them will discuss. So if we can have that quick PowerPoint put up. Great. All right, and next slide. It's real simple, real simple. This is what we asked them to do. We asked them to focus on 7 things: the background, the goals, why they did it, the success, challenges, next steps. And we also wanted to know the funniest thing that happened during the implementation of the project, because, sometimes humor is what gets us through things. So that's what each of them, as they're going to be presenting, we're going to ask them to kind of stay within this framework. They're going to present, and of course, then it's going to give you an opportunity to ask them what questions you may have of them. And with that, we're going to ask each of them to, I think we're going to start with Lenny. Lenny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hello all, my name is Lenny. And can I just go ahead to the presentation?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you for doing this, Bruce. Actually, I'm asking Bruce to go first because at the same time, my students must defend their final paper with this in front of professors, and I have to be there to support them. So actually, speaking about the refugee is really a new thing for me. And when Bruce talked about the Bono access to justice like this, me and Babsicle like this also. And we have been collaborating so many years, and it's always a pleasure for me to be a part of Babsicle program. Okay, so without further ado, I will share my screen. All right. Is it visible now?
We don't see it. The secretary can do it for you if you want them to, Lenny.
Okay.
No, there we go. We see it. Yep, we see it.
Okay. Okay, all right. So, Sabaydi, Lau, apa kabar? How are you? Good morning. Well, the title of my project is the Humanity versus Sovereignty, the fulfillment of the rights of education for refugee children in Indonesia. The background why I choose the children is because that children is still one of my favorite issue to carry on, and also children is one of the vulnerable the vulnerable group of people. So speaking about the Refugee Convention in 1951, it includes the right to not to be expelled, to work, housing, education. See, I get the highlight of the education. So speaking about education, it's not only for formal education, but also non-formal education, which is when you educated enough, then you can analyze the situation. So it means that education as a tool for you to get a better life. That's like the big dreams, yeah. And then why I choose this one. Indonesia is not a state party. Indonesia, like legally speaking, we speak in two different areas, like in legal areas and in human rights areas. The first one is in legal aspect. Indonesia is a non-state party for this convention and also for the protocol. So Indonesia does not have the system for determining refugee status and then have no obligation for doing the replacement. And then but there's a but, yeah. But the government gave the authority to UNHCR to carry out its mandate to protect refugee and to deal with refugee problems in Indonesia. And Indonesia still give a a little bit of help, but not very substantial. Okay, even though that in legal aspect, Indonesia has not yet ratified this convention, but as a country that based on the law, of course, we speak about human rights, yeah? And speaking about human rights, the children of the refugee, they need a better treatment. They need access to get their rights, yeah? And one of them is to get an education and other basic learning skills. That's what I think, that we cannot just doing using this reason just because Indonesia is a non-state party and making this group of people miserable. So we can do something in the name of humanity. The fact in Indonesia, Indonesia is a transit country, and Indonesia is actually not a final destination. They most of these refugee, they want to go to Australia, to the Christmas Island, or to another country. So Indonesia is only a transit country, and it's about 13,459 refugees. 57% of the refugees are from Afghanistan. And then now it's not only for Afghanistan, we have also people from Somalia and also people from Iran. Okay, so the goal of this project, why I choose education for these children, yes, they went to this school in their refugee camp, but the school is not really, I can say it's not really appropriate because the school is far from the things that I can call school. Yeah, but the thing is that they need to learn the basic skill. Why? Because they stay in Indonesia. They need to learn our local language so they can have a communication with the locals. Just in case they having troubles and they need help from the neighborhood, which is Indonesian. So they need to be able to at least speaking a basic Indonesian language. And then the education project, actually, I only give the basic education, such as the Indonesian language and such as like arts or sport activities, the things that the students might like or the little children might like. And then I also with the help from the Open Society, I also provide the school supplies. So I carried this huge of boxes of books, stationeries, art supplies, crayons, drawing book, storybook, and I brought this to the school, and then we having a learning session together. And I chose the storybook both in not only in Indonesian language but also in English. So some of these kids can speak English, some of these kids can speak Indonesian. And food, yes, I also bring food. So we have snacks, drinks, and meals together with them. And then also support with the sport equipment like soccer balls. And because the place that I went to is a bit cold, the place is quite cold. So I gave them tons of socks for these children.
Socks and food, very good.
Yes, and then it's also the teaching activities. The plan is that law students will conduct several sessions. That's what's the plan. But this refugee camp are really close, Bruce, so they not allow me yet to bring more people. So they only allow me first to go, and that's kind of like the barrier to building trust.
So the
Okay.
original plan was you were trying to get students in there, but
Yes.
they limited it to you up front, right?
Yes.
And you're trying to build the trust. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So why this project? Because like I said before, because this is the children are vulnerable, and then education is a basic need, and then we have resources. Yeah. Bruce says that it's not a lot of money, but by using this small amount of money, it's still resources. And then I also have friends, and I can consider myself as resources also. So why not? We try this new project together, and then even though with a little bit of money, but things happen, and things did differently. And also I think this is the obligation as a human being to help other human beings. And it's just like we call it like a calling for me to help this group of people. Okay, if I can say the successes with this project, the success that I could finally conducted several sessions in several group of children. So they have actually 5 different classes. So I went to each classes to teach the basic skills. And then after the classes, we also have meals together, and we do some art activities together with the stationaries we gave. And then at the end of the day, I could see their happy face. That's my success. When they smile, that's my success. Okay. And then this is the school. So the school is quite like this. And then actually they not allow me to put some pictures, but I need evidence to show you the real situation. And the evidence is relevant.
We would have believed you, Lenny. But I'm glad.
So you can see that this is a top of the hills, and then it's quite far from the big city. And then actually these houses belong to the locals, and they borrow the house for the school for the children to go to. Look at these cute little ones. I mean, like I love them so much, and then they always call me like Lenny, and I took picture quietly and silently. And this one is in the 2nd grade. Yeah, in the 2nd grade, they want to speak in Bahasa, but it's quite difficult for them to speak Bahasa. So I use the body movement a lot. Okay. And then these are the teachers and also the principal of the school. So actually, this is their living room for the school. It's not very spacious. It's small house, and the teachers also refugees, and all of them, as you see in the screen, they from Afghanistan, and they speak fluent English, but they cannot speak Indonesian, which is and then they stay in Bogor, in that place, is more than 5 years. And I was so surprised how come they not be able to speak Indonesian. So the fact is they live exclusively. I don't know about that. Are they having like trust issue? And because speaking about trust issue, I have the experience. I kept sending them emails for 3 times, and for 4 times they will reply my email, which is like, I totally understand. Okay, so this is the room. They have no library. They put the books and school supplies at the principal's office. And this is not also a big place to put all the books and everything. So every time the guests coming, they will allow the guests go to the reception room / the principal's office / the library. Okay. And this is the school supplies that we brought to the camp. the refugees camp, and I bought a lot of school supplies from Bandung, the place that I stay, to Bogor. It took like 5 hours by cars. And why I bought this in Bandung? Because Bandung we have different store and they can give me a better price. So challenges. The first challenge is the bureaucracy. We have like prejudice, we have like communication barriers, slow response, and not allow taking pictures. And which is, again, I'm totally understand. Maybe they have their own certain issue that they don't want other people come and see and show it publicly. I'm totally understand. But at the same time, I want to give help. I want to give something for these children. And it seems like they having trouble to trust me. And the distance, 5 until 6 hours drives. So back and forth, maybe like 12 hours. And then I have no cars. I must rent the cars. And if I brought a lot of things with me, so I must rent a bigger cars. And also budget. Of course, I need more budget and I need more people. But I think speaking about people, I can ask people around me to help me, but from budget is still a challenges. Okay, so the plan, the next step, if I have like enough resources again, I will go back to the camp. I will have like another productive meeting, and then I'm trying to gain more trust that I'm truly honest in the name of humanity. I have no hidden agenda, and then hopefully that I'm getting more budget, maybe from different institutions, because 100% of the budget I use for these children, not for myself. Okay, the funny experience, I got lost on the way back. Man, I got lost on the way back. So I supposed to go back to Bandung, but I got lost way back to Jakarta. So it's heavy raining, and then I went back to Bandung around 11 p.m. And the children asked us so many to come every day. They said, Lenny, come tomorrow. Lenny, come tomorrow. Okay, 5 hours drive, children. It's quite funny. And then when I said, I stay in Bandung, not in Bogor. And they said, easy, by car. Yeah, because the children, they don't know geography. So the children speak Indonesia, but the meaning is different. Yeah, so they speak one word, they mean this thing, but no, you cannot say something like that. So it's a little bit funny for me. And then there's a teacher from Afghanistan. I thought that she's Indonesian because she looks like Indonesian. And I started speaking Bahasa with her for 15 minutes, and she's like, no clue. It's like, oh, I'm sorry because you look like the locals. Then other teacher explained, no, she's from Afghanistan. I'm sorry that she didn't understand Bahasa Indonesia. That's one of the funny experience. So I think that even in spite of all this legal aspect, if we work together, we can help each other. And I think small step is become a big step, and the first step is always the important step. So I think that would be all from me speaking about this project of the refugee. Hopefully that with a short period of time, hopefully that you can have the information of my project. Thank you.
Beautiful, Lenny. Beautiful, Lenny. And if people have questions, please feel free to absolutely drop them into the chat. And just really amazing, Lenny, as always. You're just you're a dynamo. I get lost in a phone booth, so they actually don't have phone booths anymore. So but I completely understand. So Lenny, well done on this, and it'll be great to see how you can build on this. And building in the trust is so inherently important, as we know, and just gaining access. So it's beautiful, and it's a very innovative way that you've been able to do that. And it will be great in the future if you can get students through your clinical programs in Indonesia to be able to, to do that. Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to go from Indonesia, and now we're actually going to go up to Pakistan. Okay, we're going up to Pakistan. And with that, Hadia, can we actually ask you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the theater that you put together? Did we lose Hadia? There she is. Nope, you're on mute. Hadia, we can't hear you.
Now you can hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bruce. And thank you so much to the BAPSICLE and this initiative taken by BAPSICLE in the form of Pro Bono conference and putting all us together on this platform. Before starting my presentation, I would like to appreciate the contribution made by Lenny. It was great listening to her, great seeing what she has done so far, and great seeing all those small kids who have actually got advantage of this initiative of Lenny. I appreciate a lot for this initiative. Please, Secretary, help me showing my presentation so I can share my. The background of this theater is, as Bruce has introduced already.
And Hadia, tell us who you are, just right?
Presentation is not shown.
Secretary, can we?
Yeah. Yeah, as Bruce has introduced already, that there was a summer school, and today's presentation is basically the fruit of that summer school. The summer school was a great experience and initiative of BAPSICLE, and that was for the first time that I at least attended some virtual summer school, and it was done so amazingly well that I myself learned a lot from the summer school. And as outcome of that summer school, there were, as Bruce told us, that there was an opportunity for submission of different projects, and there were scholarships for projects. And this project proposed by me was a legislative theater, refugee laws, and that was actually the product of the learning that I got from the summer school. And this is basically the invitation card, which I'm showing to everyone, through which we invited community for this legislative theater. Before starting with the legislative theater, in something about what the legislative theater is. As you can see in the graphics, legislative theater is basically to involve your community and to involve your society to give their input and to have to sensitize the society to have their own input regarding any legislative measures which could be taken by the government. Not now, that is the goal. I'm just explaining about the legislative theater. Please don't, over here. So legislative theater is basically a concept, and this concept is that you propose lawmaking through playing a theater performance in the community, and you involve community and get their ideas regarding any deficiency in law or making proposals to the authorized assemblies to make such laws and policies which are deficient, and due to the deficiency of those laws, there is a gap in society. So we are doing this already, and I propose that for the refugee laws to sensitize our public or the general community for lawmaking over refugees. And that was the product of that online summer school, which was captioned as Beyond Refuge. And I won that scholarship, and that legislative theater was done that way. Now, next. And the goals of the legislative theater were, number one, to give awareness to the society about refugees and their plight, that how the refugees are going, how refugees are struggling hard to make their living possible in the society, in the global society, in global community, and to sensitize the society about their own role. And that is, I would like to explain it very openly, that this aspect of sensitizing the community for playing their role was what I learned from summer school, because the aspect of having a soft law regime for refugee protection and refugee concerns that I learned from the summer school. Thirdly, it was to involve the society in making proposals to the legislative bodies regarding refugees' plight and to address their problems through lawmaking. To present the legislative proposal to the legislative assemblies is the ultimate outcome. So whatever we do in the legislative theater, we put it before the national and provincial legislative assemblies so that that could be considered for lawmaking if that would be possible. But because that was a refugee campaign and that involved not only the legislature, but also the society, so we took that initiative of performing a legislative theater over there. Next, please. And why we undertaken that project was that we at University of Central Punjab, Faculty of Law, we are performing annually one theater to portray one important aspect of law, or where the gap in legislation exists. And this time we performed it on refugee laws and refugee gap which exist in our society. And in fact, we have performed such theaters on many other areas so far. And these are mostly, all these areas are those which involve the marginalized community of our society. For example, children, for example, females, and we have performed these theaters on ancestral property rights of females and the matrimonial home regarding the children and the females and family laws. And we have performed these theaters on such like themes so far. And this time the theme was the refugee laws. Next, please. The challenges what we confronted. First of all, when we consulted about performance of the legislative theater and refugee laws, the first, what I can say, the challenge or the first negative comment struck us was that Pakistan is already doing a lot for the neighboring refugees, because as you must be knowing, there is border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and millions of Afghan refugees, they have been settled down in Pakistan and they have been given cards, their staying cards and all these things. So Pakistan is already doing a lot for the refugees. What you are talking about to perform any theater on refugees, because we are already responding very positively for the sake of refugees. And that was the biggest challenge for me, to convince them that whatever we have done so far, that's not enough. Because again, I would like to give this credit to the summer school, that in summer school, we learned the soft law regime, which asks for the people to come forward and the society to come forward along with the governments to protect the refugees. And so the next challenge was that refugee is not our issue. It requires attention of those who lag in taking, the other countries around Pakistan who are not responding very positively for the refugees. So this is their issue and not our issue. That was, again, another challenge faced by me. And the proposal which I got from those areas who were challenging my this proposal of performing a theater on refugees, they proposed me that IDPs is basically our issue because there are so many IDPs due to calamities in Pakistan, and they are being migrated from their permanent residences to the other cities. So basic problem is with IDPs and not with the refugees. And again, once again, I'm saying the same thing, that what I learned from the summer school and the readings they provided in the summer school, I learned that IDP is also included in the refugees. So that gave me an edge over that conversation, and I successfully then met that challenge, and I convinced that IDPs are also part of refugees, one, and secondly, refugees, whatever we have done, it's not enough because society so far is not involved in performing their role in meeting those challenges by refugees. Next, please. And another challenge we faced at the time of those challenges which I have described so far were the challenges for pre-implementation or at the planning stage. Now coming to the challenges we faced at the implementation stage, that the first challenge was the COVID and the COVID protocols, because we were aiming at performance of a theater, and we at University of Central Punjab, we have a big auditorium for that sake, but that auditorium is not open. That is a closed auditorium, as you can imagine from generally the general practice is that the auditoriums are generally the closed door auditoriums. So the first challenge was the COVID protocols, because when we need to involve society and a big number of society, and we are making them collected under one roof, that was our biggest challenge, though that was not as such regarding the performance or anything, but that was regarding the implementation or the reinforcement of the legislative theater. And that was a big challenge for us, because people were not ready to come and go into a closed place. So we needed a lot of energy and a lot of resources to mitigate those challenges. So we arranged a lot of things. For example, the protective sanitizations and sanitation of the auditorium and everything related with that. We made sure that all the COVID protocols would be performed accurately. Secondly was, as Bruce has rightly pointed out, that was the budgetary requirements. But I don't actually undermine that thing, because whatever stipend or scholarship was given by the BEPSICLE, that actually I didn't actually made my whole proposal on the basis of that scholarship. Initially, when I actually submitted my proposal, I made UCP, the University of Central Punjab, as an integral part of the legislative theatre. So whatever budgetary requirements were there, they were those who were over and above the given scholarship amount. That was granted by the university, and that was, I described in my proposal, that would be done on a collaborative basis, and that would be met by university. So the thing which started from so to say, a small amount of scholarship that grew into a big amount by contribution made by the university. And that credit is, of course, of the BAPSICLE, which made it possible that we actually pitched our money from the BAPSICLE to the money given by the university. And that made a huge difference on our part and on the university part. The next was the actual implementation and the planning. This is between the implementation and the planning stage, and that was the cast and the crew. I don't know what is coming into the minds of my audience and what could be the challenge regarding cast and crew at the time of planning or making this theater happen. Actually, what happened was that I wanted, because I knew that I'm doing it to respond to scholarship given by, or the trust entrusted in me by the BAPSICLE, and that is for the global community ultimately, that show. I wanted to have the best of the cast, and going beyond my faculty of law, going beyond that, and I wanted to have collaboration with the Dramatic Club of University of Central Punjab, because I wanted to make it a presentable, very good theater for the global community. So that was a big challenge for me, because the Law Society or the Faculty of Law, they were of this opinion that everything should be done by us. Okay, it's only 2 minutes more. I'm so sorry, I'm taking so long. So I'm making it short now. That challenge was overcome by convincing them and having advocacy and every tool we use to convince both the society and the Dramatic Club. Next, please. This is how we met the challenges. We had advocacy, we had talks with them, and we tried to engage every segment who were objecting, including the student body and the university body who posed us the challenges. We had discussions with them, and finally we convinced them to have such a show in university. Next, please. And this is the successful implementation. All goals which were actually set by us were met by this theatrical performance. Thank you so much. That was a huge success. All theatrical effects were there. Underlying message was successfully conveyed to everyone sitting in the audience. Next, please. You can see that was a packed audience. It was about 500 people under one roof, and all the stages of the theater were there. You can see from a glimpse of audience that seniors, junior, all type of audience were there. Community was there, students were there, lawyers were there, everybody was there. And all the parts of this theater, you can see in the picture that there is metabolism cell is going on, conducted by me, myself. And over in the last picture, you can see that proposal is being handed over to the minister for presenting it in the assembly. So all the stages are successfully performed. Next, please. The next step, as I mentioned in my proposal also, that we are including refugee topics in the courses of human rights, international law, law and society. And we are proposing to our boards that we want to launch a short course on the refugees law. And then from there onwards, we can build on a successful launch of the regular courses on refugees, including the master's and PhD level, but that would be done in the future. For the time being, the next steps are those as far as the refugee laws are concerned. Next, please. As far as the theater is confirmed, theater is confirmed, we are going to perform the same theater. We are going to replicate in the bar councils. And we have talked another NGO to perform a street theater with collaboration with that NGO as a street law theater. So we are going to give at least 2 performances in this year before the bars and in the community. These are, next please. And the funniest thing which happened was, again, the same thing. That was the inclusion of Dramatic Club, because there was a huge hue and cry, and there were many, backbitings and everything, because we were including Dramatic Club with the Law Society. So that was the huge challenge. And that was the funniest thing, that in the end, when they all collaborated, you can see in the final picture that they were like one chain. They were like this, what Bruce always used to make a sign. They were like this. And that became, and we in the audience were laughing at them when they were hugging and they were giving greetings to each other, that look at them, how they started with and how they ended up. That was the funniest thing in that performance. So I think I have taken a couple of
That's beautiful, Hadi. I mean, again, and the fact that you also connected up the drama club with the Law Society, this interdisciplinary approach, you've integrated this into the curriculum for the teaching topics. Really, when we talked about sort of this soft way to do this and really raise awareness now and well into the future of people that make the changes going forward.
Yeah.
You've done brilliantly. It's really been an honor. And everyone, tomorrow, Hadi, she has a session on this where she's actually going to show a little over an hour of the legislative theater. So if you want to link on and watch all or part of it, please do. It's going to be, I think it's at 1 p.m.
I kept the story, Bruce, 1 minute. I kept the story specially hidden in this presentation so that everyone could come in the session and watch themselves that what was the story in legislative theater.
Beautiful. Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, fantastic. With that, we are going to go to, I think, can we go to Poland?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Małgorzata, yeah. Can you introduce yourself? Fantastic.
Sure.
Who's
very
awake
much.
at like 5 a.m. Poland time, which is beautiful, in Warsaw. You're in Warsaw, yes? Am I right?
Actually, I'm in Spain right now.
Oh, you're in Spain, so you're actually not. You're even
but
further.
The time is the same.
Okay.
The time is the same. It was 5 a.m.
So, all right.
Can you 5 a.m.
introduce yourself and tell us what you've done, because it's just been fantastic.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here. At the beginning, I would say, excuse for my English, but it's really early in the morning today. I woke up at 4 just to be with you here. I will try to show you my screen as well, but well, can you allow me to show my screen? And I will show the presentation.
Can we make her a co-host?
Because I want to show my presentation.
Yeah, I think they're just making a co-host. Secretary, let's make her a co-host. Hang on, I think I can do it. One moment. Secretary, can we make her a co-host?
Okay, it's still not working.
Give us couple of
Yeah, sure.
Let's make all the presenters co-host, Secretary.
Right, Chanel's co-host.
Okay, you're a
Oh,
co-host.
okay.
There you go. You're good.
Now I can show
Let's
you.
make all the other presenters co-hosts. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, is it visible for you?
We can
Okay,
see it.
so thank you one more time for inviting me here. I want to show you what I did, how I use the money that I received from you. Actually, I'm working at the Faculty of Law and Administration in Warsaw, in Poland. And what I thought would be the best is to organize something educational, since this is the background that I have. So with my 6 students, I organized something what we call Asylum Law School. Actually, I'm doing when I'm working at the university, my background is criminology, but also I run classes about refugee law. And what we are doing usually, we are working with real clients in the clinic of law. And there I have 6 students this year, and we decided to organize something what we call Asylum Law School, and it was actually dedicated to all the students that want to learn something about the asylum law. So actually, this was the first project of this kind of school at the Faculty of Law and Administration. Nobody before tried to organize something like this. We actually wanted it to be something extra. So when we started, the first thing was to tell the students that will be part of the school, that they will get a certificate. You know, students like certificates, like they like to show that they did something. So we promised them to receive certificate when they finish the school. We didn't have an exam or something like this, but we have meetings with specialists, and we actually asked them to take part in those meetings, and every person that took part in those meetings can receive a certificate at the end. So actually, as I said, I and my 6 students, we were the organizers. Well, I might say that I was a supervisor of this, and the students were organizing. And this was really interesting for them because, you know, that they got the skills that they usually don't have when they are at the university. They actually were, they had to call the speakers, they had to arrange the room, they had to, you know, do many administrative things. So it was really nice work of them, but also they get more experience in organizing this kind of thing, and they really got into this school, and they actually were the first one to tell me that we have to do it again. So I hope we will. We organized 8 meetings. We start in March and we finish in May. Actually, this was, but the recruitation of the students, we start in February, and we actually said, okay, let's do it small. We will have like 20 students, and then we can think about think about maybe next year to do something more. Well, actually, we were surprised how many people applied to this school, but I will tell you in a moment. We invite 10 specialists for these 8 meetings. We invite 10 specialists who are specialists in the refugee law, but also one person who's specialist in the history of the international protection in Poland. So we had this background, how the law was created, how we invent all those regulations that we have, how we apply it. We have a person who was actually an expert also in the international regulation. So not only the Polish regulation, but how it is done in the world. We have a specialist about the whole procedure. So the person who explain how the international protection looks like in Poland, what is the procedure, what we can expect, and so on. So a lot of people who were actually involved in the process, but also we have one person who is a refugee, and we invite this person to actually, and this was very moving experience because she talked about her life, how she ended up in Poland. And also what, like, for me was interesting that she said that, you know, I had everything in my country. I didn't have to, you know, I have money, I have house, I have work and everything. She was also a PhD in law in her country. And then, you know, I had to leave everything behind me. And this was really a moving experience also for my students, because we usually, when we look at the refugees, we usually see that they are, you know, they have nothing. So we thought that this is the idea. They really have nothing, but you know, knowing that they have to leave everything behind was really touching for my students as well. So 10 specialists for this 8 meeting. We actually have 6 meetings at the university. So we plan it this way, that the first 3 meetings were at the university. Then we have 2 meetings in the kitchen of conflict. This is the restaurant tribe and the refugees. And this was the experience not only to get in knowledge, but also to try the food of that was cooked by the refugees. And we can, you know, sit in the restaurant, speak. This is kind of different experience than when you are sitting in the room at the university and everything is very formal. But, you know, 2 meetings organized in this restaurant in very informal way, just to, you know, be in touch and to connect as well. As I said, what was the goal of the project? Is was to educate 20 students from the Faculty of Law. We thought that it would be nice to just open this recruitation for all the students from all the law studies last for 5 years, so we thought that we will open the recruitation for all the 5 years at the Faculty of Law Administration, and we thought that, you know, probably if we have 20 students interested in the project, it will be nice. When we'll have 10, then okay, more food for us, yeah? Actually, what was the success that we have, that 80 people applied for this project, but they were not only people from our faculty, but they were, for example, teachers in schools or students from other faculties that wanted to take part in this project. They somehow knew that we are going to organize it, and they were asking us, can we be a part of it, because it's so interesting, because it's actually the topic that we are discussing in Poland for a couple of years, and we had, let's call it, we have a problem with the refugee law protection in Poland. So this is something that we call a success, because usually our students are not so into new projects, especially when they hear that, you know, there are 8 meetings that you have to be there and you have to actually take part in this, and this is something extra. Usually at the Faculty of Law, students are not only studying, but they are also working at the same time. So this is something that we call a success, that there were so many people who were interested in this project.
And you're saying from outside the faculty, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yes,
others, yeah,
yes.
fantastic.
Somehow
Yeah.
they knew that we are organizing it. And, you know, we also, when we get this recruitation form, we ask them 2 questions. One was why you are applying to this, and and the second one, what can you bring to this project? And they were, you know, writing like the pages, what they would like to learn and what they will bring to this project, and also what they will do with the knowledge. So that's why actually at the very beginning of the project, we realized that this is something that have to be done again, not only this year, but we have to do it next year as well. What challenges that we have, how to choose the best one, how to choose those people who will be the best one for this project. And actually I said, well, it was easy for me. I said to my students, you have to choose. This is your responsibility. Actually, I did it because I didn't want to make this choice. It was really difficult to choose the best one. And my students were actually reading those applications. And one of my students called me saying that, you know, I'm crying because I have to choose 2 people and I have at least 5 good applications for this project. So this was really amazing to see that people are not, that they want to be part of this project, not only for those points and the certificate that they will receive, but they actually want to learn something. So also, what was the challenge that we faced? That probably you know that Poland border, we have a border in Belarus and the Ukraine. So we actually planned this whole asylum law school thinking about the problems that we have on the Belarus border. But then in February, when we were already done with the recruitation and everything, the war in the Ukraine starts. And actually new laws were presented to the parliament in Poland, new ways of solving the problem with refugees and so on. And we had to adapt to this situation as well. So, you know, we have, like, this is the same border, but actually two countries and two different legal situations that we have. And we also had to ask our presenters to be ready to answer the question, not only about the international protection that is used on the Belarusian Ukraine, but also to be prepared to answer the question about the new laws that are implemented in the parliament because of the war in Ukraine. So this was actually challenging, but I believe that we've managed with almost all the questions.
Oh my God, talk about like on your feet, having to just keep moving with it, right? Yeah, just like daily, oh my God, fantastic.
Yeah, the situation was changing like every day almost. Actually, we chose 25 people for this project. As I said, we wanted to have 20 students, okay? That's the maximum, but we've chose 25 people for the project, and actually 23 finished the course. But to be honest, those two people who didn't finish the course were those who were really, and this is something that we have to think about next year. They were really involved in the Ukraine, on the Ukrainian border. So they were traveling there, helping people and so on, and they couldn't attend the classes. So, and they weren't like, they weren't mad at us or something like this. They said, okay, this is the situation. We took what we want from this course. We know better how the legal situation looks like, but we feel that we are more wanted on the border than here. So this is also then an amazing experience. What is the next steps of the project? Actually, I already talked with a dean of the Faculty of Law and Administration, and I applied for a grant at my faculty to organize second edition of the school. Hopefully this year I will get twice as much money for the project. So, because, you know, all the specialists were volunteers in this. To be honest, we spent all the money on food and drinks. Sorry for that.
Actually, for me, I'm fine with that. You know, it's like, that's, if money has to be, food and drinks is okay.
Yeah, so I applied for this grant, and I already talked with my dean, and he promised me that they will fund the second edition of the school. So we will continue with the project, and I hope that we will continue not only next year, but this will actually, the project will become part of our curriculum. We already had at our faculty different kind of school, like the school of, I don't know, American law, the school of Chinese law, and so on. So why not the refugee law? If somebody wants to do this, of course, and I want to continue with the project. So I hope that we'll organize the school also March 2023. I'm already looking for the specialist, and we'll do the recruitation probably a bit earlier in January, just to, you know, have time to choose candidates. We also, when we create, and this was the idea of my students, and I thought that this is amazing, that maybe I'm too old for some ideas, but my students are young enough to think, you know, broader, and they create the group on Signal and Facebook. And the idea is that we will add people, this is not the group only for one edition, but we'll add people from other editions just to create the network of lawyers who are expert in refugee law in Poland. So we'll all be connected, all the editions of the schools. And we hope that in this way, by building this network, we'll just, you know, exchange information. Maybe we can help more people in this situation. What is, and this is, I'm going to the end, what is the funny fact is that we realized that the best way to save knowledge is when it comes with the food and drinks. Really, what the experience that we have when we have those two meetings in this restaurant. Of course, it was, you know, the one of the meetings were actually with the refugee person. So it was touching, it was moving, it was very difficult. But at the same time, I have the feeling that all the knowledge that was served in this restaurant were like better. They actually memorized it better because it was in this informal situation. So first of all, of course, the informal education is the key to educate people. But at the same time, you know, the marketing stuff, the experience of knowledge and so on, it's also applicable to the universities. So I hope that this year, I don't know, to be honest right now, how to explain it to my dean that we have to meet in the restaurant. I put it in my budget, but I'm quite sure that he didn't read it yet.
We just call it meetings.
But you know, really, it works. It works.
Yeah. No, I think everybody, you know, if you've ever come to the Asian Pro Bono conference, the dinners are probably the most impactful, you know, parts of the conference where, you know.
This is what I've learned in the summer school.
Yeah, that's it. And in the summer school, we did our cooking nights together, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's and you know, you can do it online, and it's, you know, the experience is the same. So actually, this was the funny part when we asked at the end my students, what do you remember from the course? What was the most interesting for you? And they all mentioned fact, knowledge, and so on, served with the food and drinks. So yeah, we hope that we will have the second edition this year and the third and the fourth edition in the future year. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to
thank you so much. And thank you for getting up in Spain. Where are you in Spain right now? I was in Valencia.
Malaga.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Good for you. Good for you. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Beautiful. And just keep doing, you know, the amazing work that you're doing. I know that we're having a little problems with the interpreters, with the Lao interpreters. I guess the secretary is trying to work on that. We apologize. So if you bear with us, we really do. Generally, we've had very good interpreting for the most part, but I guess this morning, was a little bit of a problem, so apologies. So with that, I think we're going to go from Poland, and I think we're going to come back to India. So can we come back to India? And Amrita, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so let's hear from you, because you have sort of a slightly different experience, right?
Yes.
So, and we don't have to get into all the details of your experience, because you have great ideas. And why don't you kind of share with us as you feel you're able to?
Yes, in contrast to the cultural exchange, a lot of theater on one side of my big country, and education for children on the other, from Indonesia, and educational pursuits, integrating law and opening up an asylum law clinic. It's quite a contrast. It's much more on the field. It's much more on advocacy. So just give me a second, and I'll just share my my screen, and we can go from there.
Great. You got it?
I hope it's visible.
We see it. You can make it full screen if you want, but yep, there you go.
Yes.
Perfect.
I am Amrita Paul, and I am a senior program officer with the Prison Reforms Program at the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative. Among our big area of work when it comes to prison reforms, we work on ensuring access to legal aid. And among so many vulnerable people who are in custody, we do interact with and understand and sort of identify the problems that refugees and asylum seekers in detention really face. So just to give a background, we've been working with refugees and asylum seekers in detention from about 8+ years. And we have recently, in about last two plus years, we've also included the angle of children unaccompanied or accompanied, and thereby separated from family units as well. I'll come to it, why I'm just sort of, just laying the ground, because I've tried to respond on all of these counts as well. Because working on detention really comes too natural for me. It's been about 8+9 years that I've been working on these issues. What I formulated as my problem is how do we check detention in the face of migration? And that has been a constant question for the many years that I have worked. I have seen people entering prisons, entering correctional homes. We do have a couple of jargons that we use in this country. Some states do use the jargon of correctional facilities. Some still stay with the jargon of prisons and jails. So I'm going to keep using them interchangeably. And we have also, expanded our landscape from a very small district in the eastern part of the country, in the state of West Bengal, to the entire northeastern part of the entire country, and some other states as well, wherever we have seen there are refugees and asylum seekers in detention. So responding on various counts, assisting them with understanding what is the provision of law that they are really detained, because often we get questions that why was I detained? I was persecuted and I was fleeing from my country, and this was the only way to ensure that I'm alive. So the trajectory on one end was the basic question on the grounds of arrest, and to the other side, ensuring that they get protection, both as individuals as well as families if they are moving in a family unit, as well as trying to get them released. One must bear in mind that just like Indonesia, India is also a non-signatory and continues to advocate the Asian exceptionalism, and continues to say that we should not become signatories. We continue to have our own set of concerns as well. The debate is quite rife whether we need a regional law, or we need a regional treaty, or we need domestic laws. So in that phase, in that context, I've tried to understand how best can we use our capacities and our resources, and try to find solutions to how do we check detention in the face of migration. So one of the basic ideas that I came up in the summer school, and this was an exercise we started on day 2, if I remember correctly, that what would be your idea that comes out as a product of the summer school way back a little more than a year. And I came up with the idea that we should build networks, and not just network in a country, but a cross-border network. I chose both the countries of India and Bangladesh because that's a region where we do see a lot of migration. And I go back to those conversations that we had with our resource persons, that it's sort of a mixed migration. It's not just refugees and asylum seekers. There are people who are entering or crossing the borders for various other reasons. And one must try to balance the concerns and find solutions tailor-made, or actually to respond to both as well, because you can't really respond to just one. So I was sort of very cognizant of the idea that I would have to sort of figure out how to accommodate both the sides of the balance as well. And very last year, we also did see a lot of people entering from the western borders as well. So I'm in the process, and I'll come to it in the next steps, also thinking of conceptualizing how do we respond to the other side of the border as well on my western front. But as regards the eastern front, this was a network that I conceptualized to synthesize capacities and enable exchange, both of information, of ideas, of ways to really counter, ways to just exchange, ways how to sort of find solutions as well. For this, the idea that why a network, it would help in exchange of network information, it would help informing strategy, and strategy keeps on changing every few weeks, sometimes even months. And in the entire year, you've seen how this strategy has developed. We've had a lot of regulatory trouble when it came to the Indian context, and that is why it was much needed that strategy needs to keep being informed through these conversations and through these dialogues, and build best practices which can be replicated, but most importantly, be sustainable in the future as well. So how do I do it? You prepare a network, you onboard members, and you create resources. If there are resources in existence, you replicate them so that they go up to scale. In addition, some research, some building of publications, and thereby also advocate with the national legal aid framework that exists in both the countries to sort of ensure that refugees and asylum seekers and migrants are also included in their eligibility categories, which is there in the domestic field. This project was I kept on thinking, and this is something which is fructified over a long time. I've thought about this idea of a transnational focus because the problem is you can't really have solutions from just one one country's perspective, but two regions have to come together and join hands. It will sort of inform and further future advocacy as well. And it's a fact that it does not stop here. And there's much, much more yet to come. Very sad in the future, but that is the truth. Now, as regards the network that has been built, a lot of effort was taken to onboard members, identify the members, how we can really identify persons in detention. And to be really honest, it takes a lot of time and effort by all the persons in both the countries to really start identifying people. It takes efforts because sometimes you use domestic laws like the Right to Information Act and file these requests so that information takes time to really percolate. So we've had a gestation period of about 3 to 4 months where information kept on flowing, even though there are time frames within which the information needs to be replied within, but it takes a lot of time, and that's the practicality of it as well. On the other side of the border, there were other measures that were taken because there was much more local presence. So information was really collected with probably a lot more closer interaction, and it was collated. But thereafter, there were concerns as to exchange of the information, and we needed to be sure that this is confidential information because these are persons in custody, these are persons in confinement. And I use the word detention and confinement to sort of, sort of like demarcate that detention I use with respect to adults who are there in correctional facilities and prisons, and confinement as to the children who are there, be it accompanied or unaccompanied. And this has been a very, it was something which was very consciously done because right at the start of my entire work, and this was way back in about 2015, late 2014, early 2015, that we often just took care of adults, and we forgot that there were children also in the entire maze. They kept, going into these observation homes, these shelter homes, and the parents would often ask, how to sort of establish contact, establish ways of getting in touch with the children, but their concerns would always be, sort of sidelined in a way, and this has been a personal failing. But later on, we course corrected, and that is why this was a very conscious idea that whenever going forward in a network or building communication links, we need to take the concerns of the entire family unit in total, and children should never be forgotten, because I would say that in India, the idea of refugee rights, the recognition of refugee rights has become much more stronger when it came to espousing the rights of children and children who are refugees and asylum seekers. And there's been a much more, uptake when it came to the judiciary. So I would say that is quite a corner which is quite not just sympathetic, but also an area where there's a lot of jurisprudence that's developing. So it's important to sort of, maybe it's the best strategy to tag along the family unit as such, and sort of hinge it to the fact that the children's rights or the child rights is really growing a growing field when it comes to the global south, and also for the fact that there's much more much higher, actually, a really high ratification when it comes to the Child Rights Convention in contrast to the Refugee Convention. The other steps that the network took was on strategizing on nationality verification on both sides of the transboundary network itself. And this was quite painstaking. It took a lot of effort for me and my very close colleague. We both used our time to quite a great extent, and ensuring that maximum number of people, their nationality verification is undertaken. It took several rounds of conversations to ensure that addresses, very simple details like addresses and family details are kept on updating, are sort of verified from the field and shared with the High Commission in India. And the same format is also utilized in Bangladesh as well. And that is how to keep on, keep ensuring that the nationality verification is completed at really a fast pace. This also brings to the idea, to the next point, that it took a lot of effort also to liaise with the High Commissions and the Ministry of External Affairs on both ends, because there are several rounds of conversations that one would have to have, several rounds of permissions that one would have to get to actually get any of the prisoners out, to even broker the idea of sentence transfers, because this was an area of mixed migration, and they could actually go ahead and serve their sentences in their own respective countries and be close to homes as well. So the conversation is still up and running. We are still in talks with the High Commission at both ends to ensure that most number of people end up going back to their countries and getting reunified. Given the fact that the festival season is around the corner, we would really hope that the families are able to really celebrate with their loved ones, even if they are not with them, but at least in the same country. The other idea that really came up with in our communication was to explore capacities of local CSOs and NGOs in India specifically. When in comparison to Bangladesh, there was a much more amount of local presence, but in India, because we really operate out of Delhi, and we have a couple of offices here across the country, but it's not as local as we would wish to. So we explored capacities of very local civil society organizations to help us in nationality verification, to help us to actually inform the families that their family members are actually in detention on the other side of the border. Most often, the information is also not available. So there are some possibilities of even video conferencing facilities which can be utilized so that families are able to speak to them, to their family members in detention. And we are exploring that angle as well. But of course, COVID has been a kicker and created a lot of bummers across the the entire journey. But we will not heed to it, so we will continue fighting the good battle.
So, and Amrita, I'm gonna ask you to jump ahead now, because I know you have a lot, but as you said, as you can imagine, I just want you to share with us the funny experience.
Yes, I'll just come to two more points. With respect to the research, I wrote a book chapter, which is featured in the book that released early this year, called "The Hope Behind Bars." This chapter, "The Voices from Detention, Is There Any Hope?" is specifically to refugees, and there's another book chapter that is coming up in the next year, and this is specifically tailor-made and responding to the access to justice issues which the children in detention, the child refugee really faces in specifically to India. The funny one, I really couldn't come up with anything that was funny. It was much more of challenges that we ended up facing, a lot of regulatory challenges that we faced. The field for CSOs is really closing down. It's gotten clamped up. So that's a major area that we are really countering in the country. There was a challenge also where it came to needing support, constant support and advocacy with local CSOs, and that was another issue. But the bigger problem and the bigger idea that I would really like to grapple with, and that would really form the next step, is to ensure that the project, that this network, that this work continues to be sustainable. And for that, I will continue to endeavor that, I'll find partners, I'll find persons even in their individual capacities or in an organizational format to continue espousing the protection rights of refugees and asylum seekers. And I will end it here. I'll just stop sharing. Yes.
And I was going to
Yes,
say,
Bruce.
and this afternoon, we're going to have a session on large law firm collaborations, and actually Amrita's organization, they're going to be talking about a report that was put together with a number of law firms, including K&L Gates. So we'll have different, and showing how that's much more of a pro bono connection, but that will be on at 1 p.m. ICT or either Chinatown, whatever. So looking forward to that. Okay, so we're in India. We're going to go right next door to Bangladesh. Are we ready? Natasha, you there?
Yes, we are ready.
All right, let's hear about your experiences.
Yes, thank you.
And we're not seeing you now. Natasha,
Just
did we lose you? Yep, there we go.
yeah, just a moment, please.
Sure, you got it.
Yeah, thank you. So can you see the presentation or?
We can. You're starting with the funny part, which I'm happy to start with the funny. I think it's your last slide. You may want
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm happy to start with the funny. Yeah. So I think you need to click on your.
No, it's okay. I'll do it later. Yeah.
Okay.
So once again, the voice as refugees with in terms of linguistic and camps. Have the largest refugee camp in Bangladesh for justice for the inclusive legal system. First of all, I wanted to sum up because other perspectives a little bit later, because the very beginning I have worked so far. First of all, research in terms of the short term is about disability-friendly language in the camp context, because camp does have the complex setup. In a refugee camp, especially in Bangladesh, there are a lot of manage and negotiate. You have to work with all the sector heads and all the actors who are working over there. And in terms of the disability and working for them, those options are quite limited. So what I work on those limited work frame or the camp setup. Then it about the medium term, like ensuring the accessibility for the hearing people and also the visual impaired, and for the visually impaired people, even though the people who are living in the camps, especially the hearing and the speech impaired people, the problem working with the community, their level of understanding and your level of understanding will not be the same. So you require to match it with them, because when the people who are mentally retarded and who are not able, only they are the disabled people, and also the people inability or who can't access in a way what they're still disabled people. But the people who are like speech and the hearing impairment, not like understand anything. They can understand that what is happening around and being. That was a challenging one. And next, I can talk about my long-term initiative, like how to ensure the inclusive disaster management. That is really important. Yeah, so now I'm going for the next one. In terms of the methodology, if I need to talk about it a little bit, it's about how I use the existing data. The analyzing all the service-based records, like where the legal actors are providing. How did they ensure the accessibility in the camp? Even they face the same limitation that the people. And well, I was raising, can existing data answer the common question? Need to be cautious and like very much concerned that in some of the cases it might not. So be prepared for that. The primary research option information. I focus on the community mapping because I worked in a selected camp that was in Camp 6 that you could see from the Google map as well. And KI with the service providers and like face-to-face the interview. Major themes emerged through the analysis, not being like making CSL like child sexual visible need for support, sanctions for offender, and lack of respect for the refugees and refugee children with the disability. Even though they for such children is already well understood, the children stated that the support they were given was not sufficient in terms of the language barrier, especially the cases of the hearing and the speech impaired. Now you can imagine what could be happen with the visually impaired. And this is not all about the children only, but also for the adults as well. And why to this project? I'd like to tell you in advance that please, if you feel that you are not comfortable, what you just you can let me know, or you can skip this part because this to share my experience that is quite personal and that is from the I believe that justice must be served at home through the inclusive legal instruments. And apart from that, to initiate the experimental idea among 10 families while bringing justice at home for the persecuted hearing and speech impaired with the experimental boxes, like as their accessibilities are very limited in the camps. I mean, nobody is going to listen to you. So what could be happen if we can bring those compliant boxes to their houses? So the thing is, like, as being a survivor of twice in my childhood by my close relative and the home tutor when I was unaware and report when I turned 16 years old and my mother refused to believe. And I realized that it could be same and the same cases could be all around the world. And who suffered a lot, right? Because you can't say that I'm a survivor from the trauma, but you can say that every night, every day, I used to fight, especially the people who are the survivors, how to get rid from this trauma. So that moment, I tolerated the abuse of the ostracized stigma. And in some of the cases by the elderly people who used to criticize me a lot, I wanted to have trauma between a child abuse survivor and where legal actors would document and more based on the 50 compliance from that bank or the company shared as to the camp, and because of all sort of restriction that the authorities put on. Approval for that research successes that I had with the project. I already mentioned the compliant bank, symbolic back touch perpetrators pictorial message on paper. So I'm not ready to accept it as a success, but at least the success was that I got the permission from the authority, and on the basis of my personal experience sharing, it was trauma. It was hurt, and I was almost broken, but I controlled myself in a professional ground. So yeah. would show them mute. I mean, like we used to show them video with that they do have a clear understanding about the good touch and the bad touch, like language, and that was developed by Bragg. And so the caregiver of the refugee kids with disabilities ever observed or the child ever have reported about this sort of bad touch they felt. Every 7 days, the volunteer would follow up, and end of the month would deposit it at the legal sector office, and they would investigate and check. That was the idea that, okay, if they are not coming to the camp management authority or to the concerned desk or to the legal actors, they are not going, let's go to them. I mean, that was the idea. Implement. In terms of the challenges, definitely working in a camp where everything is set up and monitored, and everything is like under proper justification and each and every permission and the prior approval. So the challenges in terms of data collection, like though they were acquainted with but they don't know the procedure for getting the service. They take sexual abuse like child abuse as well. Nothing wrong with it, as it may happen when they would like to come. They cannot differentiate between what is proper use and what is the proper touch and what is an abuse. Sometimes it becomes very risky from the mentally disabled people for their encountering behavior. Then they have fear race. They think that if they disclose the incidence of violence to outsiders, it may ruin their and only hearing impaired, only visual impaired, and only speech impaired cases are real. Women victims to face the investigation, they prefer the mental conciliation to get punished between abuser and abused. And also the next steps to build on the work that I did so far, like fairness that I have mentioned everywhere, this research, access by researchers to any traditional knowledge or should be subject to the free and prior disabilities in development. You have to focus on the part of core development, not being the sole person or sole authority. A culturally appropriate to be respectful to their culture and the cultural like potential cultures should be explored in advance of the research with the local communities. The local ethical review must be regarded and embraced. Last part is care. Ahead of the research should be determined whether the local resources will be depleted to provide talking to them while following the safety and security measure. The tailored risk management analysis might be permissible by the authority to conduct this research in a fair manner and honesty is the part of the lower single language. So I did heavily depending on the volunteers. So whatever the box is uncomfortable and I'm not even satisfied with myself. In terms of the research, I must learn the language first, then I could go for it. But due to the it was a sort of barrier for me, and I feel like, okay, I have in a way to learn the language, then I can go back to them. Now, last but funniest thing that happened during the implementation of the project, as I said that with the boxes. So during the box experiment, while we were explaining the method to the started showing the tantrum and requested for those boxes. But we could hardly make them understand that these are not for chocolates. But finally, we managed to get out from there. But thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Especially with the boxes. Oh my gosh, that's just fantastic. And you know, I bet that probably added to the tantrums. So really wonderful, Natasha and everyone. Thanks for everyone for this. You know, I wanted to just add, so this was also just not only a Bapsicle initiative at all. We did this with CRG in India Blast. We did it with the Open Society Justice Initiative, and we had putting together the summer school was absolutely, a real honor. It was a lot of work. And, as you can imagine, working with so many people from many different countries. We also had BRAC and the Center for Peace and Justice from BRAC assisting us. We had experts or people with experiences from all over. We had to vet the people that were coming in. We made sure that the summer school was interactive. And in the end, we came up with the idea that we would give this small seed money to see what can be produced from it. And we really can't be happier at the results to see as we've seen the impact, from as the Australians always say at the Pro Bono conference, the little things, big things grow. This is such a topical area now and really forever. When I hear about the work that's been going on, especially the institutionalizing work, we've heard it at institutionalize it at academic institutions. We're talking about, working in detention centers, really changing mindsets, going to the community. We had the legislative theater. It's just beautiful to see. And it's beautiful, as we said, everybody, if we can all just do this, everybody bring our hands together. Everybody, let's just bring our hands together. In deciding which session we wanted to start this Access to Justice Exchange, this year's Access to Justice Exchange, there was no doubt that this was going to be it, because this really did symbolize true access to justice, cross-border, cross-mindset, innovative. If you look behind me, this is one of the, I'm going to just duck, but this is one of the backgrounds that we used during the summer school. And this really just focused on new ideas. And that's what we're all working towards, is these new ideas, not just accepting that some things can't be done, but coming up with new ideas. And of course, as we heard from Poland, as they were coming up with new ideas, they got thrown curveballs by having a war all of a sudden happen, and they had new ideas and new law legislation weekly. So, but brilliantly, they got through it. So with that, I don't know if people had questions. We asked you to put it into the chat. I really want to thank all of our speakers. Can we give them all a big thumbs up here? You're just magnificent. And we're so glad to be able to continue to walk alongside of you. We want to explore. We didn't do the summer school this year with so much on, but we really want to explore it for next year and onward in different ways, and having more involved, more institutions involved. So if people have ideas they want to get involved, please let us know. It really is, as Mandy put in the chat, a fantastic session and a really great initiative. Absolutely is. And just it was an honor as Babsicle, to be chosen as one of many to assist with this. So with that, I think we're going to call it a close for this first opening session for the 2022 Access to Justice Exchange. We're back on in a little over an hour, but then there'll be breakout session. This was a plenary session. There'll be up to, I think, 3 breakout sessions at the same time, and they're quite diversified. So please jump on. I hope they worked out the interpretation. We're really great. Thankful to the interpreters. So many of them coming in as volunteers, and those others also being supported to be interpreters. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you in about 1 hour and 13 minutes for the next sessions. Okay, everyone.